Hi, everybody, and welcome to Exegetically Speaking, a podcast of the friends and faculty of Wheaton College, Wheaton, Illinois, and the Lanier Theological Library in Houston, Texas. My name is David Capes, and I am the Senior Research Fellow at the Lanier Theological Library and a former dean up there in Wheaton at the School of Biblical and Theological Studies. Our purpose in these podcasts is really very simple. We want to promote the study of biblical languages, Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic, so we can read the Bible more faithfully, study it more fully, and not just read it, but to live it. Joining me today on Exegetically Speaking is Dr. Jon Walton, who's a professor of Old Testament here at Wheaton College. We have the great privilege of actually being face-to-face today and not over Zoom. So I'm really excited to see Jon. Jon's lost a few pounds. He's looking mean. Jon never looks mean, but he's looking lean. That's what I should say. Jon, great to see you.
Great to be here and looking at you face-to-face, David.
It's so fun to be back on campus and everything. And so thanks for your willingness to meet today and spend a little time with me. Last time you were with us, you talked about Daniel chapter 5 and the handwriting on the fresco.
That was fun.
I've gotten some really interesting feedback on that. We'll have to talk about that at another time. But today we're going to talk about Isaiah chapter 14. Growing up, I heard that this was sort of the fall of Satan as being, a great angel who was very powerful and such. And I know probably you've heard that as well.
Well, not only have I heard it, but for instance, when I teach sixth graders, it seems that some of them are struggling to figure out Abraham from Moses, yet they all seem to know this story about the fall of Satan.
They know that one. Isn't that interesting how that has sort of, there's a hook in it or something, I guess, that they remember. So what's really going on in this passage? Would you mind reading a little bit of it for us and kind of giving us, in English, read it in English, in whatever translation that suits your fancy, but just give us a sense of what this text is about. Read the text for us, and then we're going to talk about really what's going on behind the text.
Sure. We're in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 15, and I'm reading from the NIV. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. And I should note that in the King James, which many people in my generation grew up on, where it says that you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn, the King James read Lucifer. So we can imagine why lots of people were raised believing this referred to Satan.
Yeah. And where did that word Lucifer come from? Do you know?
Yeah, it's really very interesting. It derived from the Latin Vulgate.
Okay.
When Jerome saw the Hebrew word, which is Hillel, he interpreted it as referring to Venus. And so he interpreted it as kind of shining one, which was also supported by the Septuagint. And that was a way that they talked about the planet Venus. So he used another word in Latin, Luciferos, which was a way of referring to Venus.
The light bearer, right? Is what it means.
Luciferos. Right? And it was only over time that became adopted as a personal name and then was applied to Satan.
Oh, wow. Okay. So is that what's going on here? Are we talking about the fall of Satan, Lucifer from heaven down to earth?
Well, of course, we would look to the context to tell us. And here, fortunately, the context is very clear. You can go back up to verse 4 and say, you will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon. The context tells you very plainly who it's referring to.
So what is a taunt song exactly, or this kind of thing?
Yeah, well, you caught the gist of it in the reading of it. It's got a lot to say about the downfall of this individual. So how the oppressor has come to an end and all the bad things that are going to happen to him, all of the hubris and arrogance and pride that led him to do what he did, and how that was going to result in his downfall. So it taunts him with the prospect of this destiny of being overthrown.
So talking smack.
Yeah.
Talking trash.
It's definitely trash talk, yes.
So, but this one had instilled great fear, had done so much damage.
Sure.
And so no wonder people feared him when he was alive, but now
Right.
he's just like any other mortal, right?
Right. So this is in the midst of Isaiah's oracles against the nations, and this is against Babylon.
So this entire thing can be read from verses 12 and following, as you were saying a moment ago, as part of the taunt song
Sure.
against the king of Babylon.
Yep, and there's no reason to change the context to somehow think that he's shifted from the king of Babylon to Satan.
Right. So are taunt songs fairly common?
The prophets have a few of them, Isaiah and Ezekiel particularly have these taunts. And again, it's a typical way of speaking by the prophets against the nations and against their kings and their oppression and all of those things.
Yeah. A lot of folks, I think, downplay the significance of the exile and everything that happened in the destructions that started with Assyria and then continued in the Babylonian conquest of the land. And, you know, when you come to the New Testament, you find that the idea of the exile is so significant. The idea of the Exodus is really significant, and the hope for a new Exodus is there, but also this notion of exile, that we are not where we should be.
Absolutely. And again, you can see it coming out a lot in Daniel as well, that his situation, but also his visions, focus on this question of when the exile will end.
Yeah. Jon, thank you for being with us today on Exegetically Speaking and helping to clarify a little bit of that text and of Isaiah chapter 14.
Sure.
Thanks to Ian Rosine, Rebecca Larson, and Silvio Vasquez, who help us produce this podcast. Thanks as well to Jon Laansma, our Wheaton-based director, who makes this podcast possible. We're grateful to Phil Keggy for our music. If you want to study biblical languages, then you need to consider Wheaton College. Whether you're an undergraduate or a graduate student, we have amazing programs, a first-rate faculty, and some of the best students in the world. So go to the website, www.wheaton.edu, and look for modern and classical languages. Get started today. If you have questions about this or any of our podcasts, we'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions or questions about any passage in the Hebrew Bible or Greek New Testament, send us an email and we'll see if we can get one of our experts to weigh in on that for you. Our email is exegetically.speaking@wheaton.edu. That's exegetically.speaking@wheaton.edu. Thanks for listening.